Hello everybody! In today's video I'm going to be showing you a 3D spring goddess nail, and I call it a spring goddess, but it's just like a face profile, and it's got flowers in her hair, kind of like a little flower crown. I love this nail, and this is the first time I've ever been truly satisfied with 3D roses that I've created. Every time I make them I'm like, oh, they could be better. But this time I really am absolutely in love with them. I did them a different way than I have normally, so I like this method. Typically I try to make individual petals even for the center of the rose. This time I made a long strip and then I rolled up the middle before adding petals around the outside, and I think they're gorgeous. So I hope you guys like that little bit of the rose part of the tutorial, and this whole design is done with double dips acrylics and dipping powder because I dipped the base for the color instead of applying it as acrylic, so you get to see that too. And they're from the Spring Pastel kit, which I'll put links for in the description box below, as well as all the colors I used, because I used 2 more besides the ones that are just in that kit for the goddess's face and her hair. So I hope you love this design as much as I do. I think it is just so gorgeous. And don't forget to click subscribe to see all my future videos as well. Bye!
So we're going to begin on the thumb, middle, and ring and apply a thin layer of their step 1 base and then dip it into Enchanted, which is just a gorgeous semi-clear silver glitter. We're going to apply another layer of base, dip that again. And as you can see, that covers actually pretty well considering it's a glitter texture. And then do one final dip. So that's another layer of the dip base, and then dip it into the clear. And then we're going to apply an activator and then 2 coats of top coat. So the first coat, and then in about 30 seconds apply the top coat, which is pretty standard for a dipping powder top coat system. And then we're going to sculpt our goddess with the color Toffee Pecan. And if you guys have watched my double dip videos, you guys may be sick of hearing me say I'm using the Toffee Pecan, but I truly just love that color. It is one of the best nude type colors I've ever used as far as like skin fleshy tone. One thing I really love about it is it's a very medium, or what I consider medium skin tone. It probably isn't medium skin tone to somebody who isn't pale as a ghost like me, but to me it's what I would think of as a medium skin tone, meaning that by the way that I paint it and add the shading and highlights afterwards, I can really, give this a very warm skin tone or lighten it. And so there's a lot of versatility, I feel like, with that particular color. So I'm going to use that one, and I'm going to sculpt all of the facial features of my spring goddess that I'm going to kind of slowly work in. Whenever I sculpt a face, my words are all over the place today. I don't know what's going on. But whenever I sculpt a face, I kind of like to start out with a base layer and then sort of push in the acrylic where it goes in the divots of somebody's face, around their eyes, the hollows of their cheeks, their temples, and just kind of slowly build up layer by layer how it works, or how their face is, built, shaped. And so now I'm going to use a little bit more of that Toffee Pecan and add her eyelid. So for this particular design, I wanted my goddess's eyes to be closed. So I'm going to sculpt her eyelid, which is a little bit kind of a different look to it when it's just at this particular stage, because I think it looks a little strange right now. And it's just one of those things, but her eye is closed. So if it wasn't closed, then you'd probably have wanted to sculpt her eye with white. And then if you wanted to, you could have sculpted a little bit of an eyelid around it with the Toffee Pecan, but that's kind of an up to you sort of scenario if you wanted her eye to be open. For me, I wanted her to just have like this really like blissful look on her face. So a closed eye is where I was going with it. And then I'm going to be sculpting in her lips, still using the Toffee Pecan. You could sculpt in her lips with a more lip hue, a rosy pink or a peachy color, or, purple if you wanted to go more in like the glam type look. But for me, I like to start sculpting lips with the same color as the skin and then bring in the lip color later. And that is pretty much personal opinion, but I think it looks a little bit more realistic when it's done that way, because your lips stick out farther than where you have your lip color. So if you sculpt and you kind of bring it out and you don't have like just that little sculpted lip color area, but more around it all the way, I think it looks just slightly more realistic. I'm going to be sculpting her neck too, coming off, just sort of taper it off so it goes to the side of the nail. And I'm not going to worry about adding like a shirt or anything. I'm going to add just a little bit of a pink hue. This is the bunny nose color on her cheek. Very, very slight, not a lot. And use that same bunny nose on her lips. It's a very, very pale pink. But I'm going to be adding some color to her eyelids with a purple, the light purple shade from the Spring Pastel kit called Magnolia. And just kind of give her some eye color. I personally am a huge fan of colorful eyeshadow. Whenever I'm feeling artsy fartsy, I definitely kind of have my fun with it. So I'm all for adding some color to her eyelids. That would be something that if you are, you know, if that's not your style, you could definitely omit. And then I'm going to use the color Hazel Grace to do her hair. And so it's the Toffee Pecan and Hazel Grace. Those are the two colors that are not in the spring pastel kit. Otherwise, everything is. Even the clear dipping powder is actually in this kit, as well as that silver color in the background, and then the other 4 pastels that you'll see me use. So I've got the bunny nose, the magnolia, and then a really light aqua and a light blue. So for her hair, I'm going to keep it fairly short style and just kind of very lightly sculpt in some texture. You don't need to overdo the sculpting in the hair, especially if you're going to be doing a floral crown like I did, because most of the hair actually pretty much gets covered up. So this is almost like a base layer that's just going to support the flower crown. So if you want to, you know, do a whole bunch of detail in the hair, that is completely up to you, but it might almost feel like wasted time. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't have time to waste. So we're just going to sculpt her hair to, you know, the point where I feel like I'm happy with it. With this, I do like to add a little bit of texture to it no matter what, just because, well, I can't help myself, really, is the main thing. I'm going to add one little wisp of hair coming down over her forehead and just kind of connect that through with the Hazel Grace color. I do like that Hazel Grace is kind of more of like a pinkish purple, or almost like a fuchsia tone, darker purple. I think that one's really pretty. It goes well with a lot of other colors too, and it really stands out against the glittery silver background. I'm adding a little bit more texture around her face with her hair that is lower, like below the ears, because that part will show with kind of like around the little floral headband. But you can just kind of keep filling in. And, you know, if you want to, you could have stopped it long before I did, but I just can't help myself. And then I'm going to add a little bit of that Hazel Grace as a shade on her eyelids. It's just a little tiny bit, and a little bit over her lips. I just felt her lips didn't stand out quite as much as I'd want to. And then a very tiny amount on her cheeks too, just to kind of bring in those purple hues across her face. I'm going to add just a little bit more of the Toffee Pecan across her forehead to smooth out an area that kind of indented more than I would like it to. And then after we have all of that, we're going to use the color Emerald, which is the light aqua color in the kit. And honestly, it is very, very similar to the blue. And if you didn't have them right next to each other, you may not be able to tell the difference between them. But there's such a versatile, useful color that I don't mind having two colors that are so similar, because I know for my purposes and my use, I will use them up no matter what, because I go through products like you guys wouldn't believe, or maybe you would. You know, you guys see what I do. So there we go. So just adding some little leaves in our hair. And when I'm adding in these little leaves, I'm kind of trying to figure out where the headband is going to go. So you have to kind of map it out along the leaf pattern. So now with the colors Magnolia, Bunny Nose, and Clear Sky, so that is the purplish, the light pink, and the light blue, we're going to be sculpting our roses. And like I said in the intro, I'm very happy with these roses. So starting out with a tiny bead of each of those colors, and then I'm going to pull it into a very long, very narrow strip. Bear in mind that you're basically deciding the height of your rose right now. So look at your strip and then imagine that that's the height of your rose, but you need to add just a little bit. Once that acrylic starts to turn matte, roll up the center of your rose. Keep pushing it down on one end so that it kind of gets so it's wider on the one side and narrower at the bottom. So as you're rolling, as you can see, I kind of roll and tuck is my system pretty much. And then I like to stand them up on end, leaving them on my nail form backing, but just standing them upright, at least as best as I can. And then going back to my 3 colors, I'm going to sculpt 3 more teeny tiny little petals for each one. So there's the 3 for the purple. These are really small amounts of acrylic, you guys. The smallest pretty much that you can pick up. And then after you have them, I'm going to press them out with my brush. I am using a size 8 sculptor brush. So if you're using a 3D art brush, you could get smaller beads of acrylic, but for this particular size, that's about as small as I can get them. So then I'm going to sculpt my 3 pink ones. And the reason I didn't do those in the beginning is because if you wait a second and then go back to them, it gives you a little bit more working time between doing all the flowers. So slide your brush underneath the 3 petals and place them around the flowers as you can. My blues are starting to almost get too cured, so they didn't want to stick too great, but they did, and it's just fine. So stick those along and then do your 3 pinks, and then you're going to want to sculpt at least 3 more sets of these flowers, so you have about 12 in total. You may not end up using them all, but it's nice to just have them so that you can use them. And maybe depending on how you place them, you'll need more than that. But we're going to take and we're going to glue our flowers into her hair, and we're going to just alternate purple, pink, blue, and place them down I really love these little teeny tiny roses. I know I said that already, but I just can't get over it. I think they're just so adorable. So glue each one of those down, going down the line of her hair until you pretty much have it filled in all the way across. And then once you have them where they're all lined up, then you're going to take some clear base, which is just the clear acrylic from Double Dip, and fill in behind the roses. It's just not too much. You can really do just a little bit, but you're wanting to make sure that your roses are secure to her head so that they don't fall off. And after we have that, we can add some details to her face with some acrylic paint. I'm going to start out with a brown, and I'm going to do some shading on her face, around her nose, around her eye socket. I do want this to look very dramatic as far as the shading style goes. So I'm going to do some pretty heavy shading on her. And with that brown acrylic paint, I'm going to wash over her face and give her just a little bit more of a tan than what that Toffee Pecan gave me in the beginning. Like I said, that Toffee Pecan, if you wanted her to have a more fair skin tone, instead of doing those, under shadows with a brown, you would take a cream color paint and you would highlight her face. So it's just so versatile because it's right like in the middle of that. And then with some brown paint or black paint, we're going to be doing some more of the intense detailing on her eyelashes and give her a really nice full lash line right along the bottom of that eyelid. On both sides, there's just a little bit of eyelid sticking out on the other side that's visible. And then any place you really want to do outlines, if you want to do a little bit of outlining in her hair, I would probably go with black just because of the dark purple color, just to make sure it would show up. Do a little bit of shading on her lips. I did go back to brown and add some detail in her ear. And then using black, I'm going to be adding her eyebrow. I want to make sure that her eyebrow is very visible. And I gave it just a slight upward tip, so it looks like she does have that very kind of contemplative, peaceful look on her face. Little outlines here and there wherever I think that they're necessary with the black, and just keep filling in details until you're satisfied is always my theory. You can, keep it really simple and not overdo it at all, or you can really go, all in and detail every last little bit of this. It's totally up to you. And then I'm going to fill in any gaps in her little flower headband with some rhinestones, just little tiny silver ones. They don't even hardly show up that much, I don't think, especially with all that's going on in this nail, but it feels like it just fills in some of the gaps and makes the little headband look a bit more complete. And then on my thumb and the ring, so those are the other two nails that have the enchanted color in the background, I'm going to be gluing 3 of those little roses along one of the upper corners. Once again, filling them in to secure them with some clear base and then adding some silver rhinestones. When I'm doing this, I'm using some glue to attach my rhinestones, which is not my typical method. Usually I would use some jewelry gel with some top coat, but because I used the dipping powder top coat, these already had a shine to them. So I didn't want to do something else, but I think I would probably recommend using jewelry gel instead of nail glue if you have it available to you. So on my index nail, I'm going to do 2 dips into the color Magnolia, which, I love that purple. It's so beautiful. And then after I have that, I'm going to apply a layer of the activator, let that set up, make sure it's really nice and solid, and then apply a thin layer of gel base coat. So this is gel base coat, not dipping powder base coat, and 1 quick dip into the clear base. And then I'm going to do several dips into the color Emerald. So I'm dipping the tip and kind of going about halfway up the nail. And after that's cured, I'm going to apply another layer of the dipping powder base and dip it into the clear powder to add a little cap on top of the ombre. Activate it again, and then very gently buff it out to smooth out the texture. So the reason that you use gel base coat in the middle of that is because gel is what's going to give you that ombre. So you can't use dipping powder base coat, but you do have to activate it between all of that so that your dipping powder isn't wet and slightly tacky underneath your gel. So we're going to do the same process for the pinky, but this time we're dipping it into clear sky with the dipping powder base coat. Activate it, a thin layer of gel base coat, quick dip into clear base, and then a series of really fast dips into the color Bunny Nose. So we have a blue to pink ombre on this one. Brush off extra powder, apply another layer of the dipping powder base coat into the clear, activate again, buff, another layer of activator, 2 layers of top coat, and then glue on some rhinestones. It really is a very quick way of doing it. And if you guys are, working in a salon, it is a fabulous way to do ombres, is to do it that way because it is so fast and so effortless. And here's the final set. I am so in awe of these. Like I said, I'll put links to all the colors in the description box below, as well as my discount code. So check for that. And if you guys are interested in any questions or anything, let me know. And here is a Melody Minutes.
Time to drink it. Okay. Hey, what? What is in there? What is in this tea?
Mouse.
A mouse?
Yeah.
In my tea?
Yeah.
No. Are you sure?
Yeah. Is it a mouse?
I can't get like blueberries. There's a mouse. What is this?
Mouse.
In my tea? Why is there a mouse in my tea?
Why was there a mouse in her tea?
I don't know.
Who put it in there?
Melody.
Why?
So what you guys just witnessed is one of Melody's absolute favorite games to play. She loves to play mouse and put it in people's drinks. So there's that. I hope you guys love this design, and I will see you all next time. Bye.